Our guest today is a Norwegian guitar player and composer, known for his work with Conception and ARK. In 2018, Conception announced their comeback, and since then they have released an EP and the studio album State of Deception. This fall, they will release the first four albums remastered on vinyl. Speaking directly from Sweden, Tore Østby. How are you doing,
Nice to
sir?
be here. I'm fine, thank you. How are you, John?
I'm doing great. Appreciate it. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for having me here.
My pleasure, sir. Like it's been like a huge pleasure to following your work through all those years and finally be able to chat a little bit about your career.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
The four albums that Conception released in the 90s are unique in many ways, as we can hear through the different records. In which song or record do you feel that you and the band found that sound that still resonates to this day?
So I think already from the first album, you have a thread going all the way up until till today, and it's been a constant development with Conception. It's like a constant journey. We're very eager to explore, new sounds, new ways to express ourselves, and so I think it's in our DNA to renew ourselves. So you will find that from album to album. But I would say from the first seed with the last sunset, you have this diverse and the right DNA of Conception.
After the release of Flow, the band stopped and each one of you had different projects. Roy with Camelot went for something more power and heavy, but you went for an even more progressive path. The two discs with ARK are classics for many fans. Do you feel that these two records were a natural evolution of your work with Conception?
Absolutely. And it's like when we came to the point where we had done In Your Multitude, which I guess is for me the most progressive album we did, it felt very natural for Conception to evolve further towards the flow kind of sound, and we want to experiment more with the electronic sounds and take Conception to new soundscapes. But it's also been such a great thing for me to do this little jazz fusion inspired hard rock music that and also to blend with Spanish guitar and so on. That is very prominent on the first Conception albums. So ARK felt like I started doing that with John just after we had released In Your Multitude, and it felt like, in one way, it feels like A Million Gods on In Your Multitude really set the direction further for ARK, like style wise, and so ARK allowed me to explore the continuation from that side of Conception, whilst Conception then was allowed to find new to develop in new ways. And what's probably interesting to know too is that this first ARK album and the music of it was written and there in 95-ish, after In the Multitude, it was written and recorded, the music, in Conception's rehearsal room on Arve's drums and on Conception's demo studio. So Conception took a break there for a couple of months, and John and I did that, and then it took us some further time to find the right singer for this. So that's why it took a while, but it is very connected to Conception, I would say.
All right, interesting. Now talking a little bit about like your style, like the melodies of your songs are always amazing. Among the projects as a songwriter and guitar player in this period, until the comeback of Conception, did you ever consider recording material for an instrumental album?
Yeah, definitely. It's also very, very fascinating, and I do have a lot of material. I think today we should rather speak about Conception, and then I have some news for you later.
All right. And I find it interesting to know that some songs you composed were inspired when you were traveling or living in other countries. Some influenced by the landscapes or places like in France, Sweden, and Portugal. Even though they have their own lyrics, are you able to reconnect and go back to those places when performing these songs?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a great way also to to travel, to meet people, to experience things. That's a great source of inspiration. For example, what you mentioned, Portugal. There was this special house. There were some guy who lost his mind, wrote all over this abandoned place, and I got this incredible feeling of someone insane being also very alone, and these emotions is what I put into then. Oh no, I forgot the title. What's the title again?
It was that one that the video with all the fans, isn't?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was there, but I forgot it too.
Come on, all right. Double brain slip here. It starts on A. What's that?
Anybody out there?
Anybody out there? Thanks. So anybody out there? Every time I hear it, I see still this house and I still feel these emotions. But then there were also some mixed emotions because I was there to celebrate my wife had her birthday, and we were a bunch of families together in a big house and have a great time. And I had to sneak off from dinners because I all of a sudden sit in the meeting, and then I remembered a new part, or not remember, but it just came to me a new part. So I had to like run back to my room where I had a little recording equipment and just get it down. So it's like throughout that week working on this track. So of course you have mixed, but all these emotions stick, and I guess it's like with people also, for some people certain songs resembles on a certain period or a certain happening, and you always get this good vibe when hearing that song. So I have with these, and like if Feather Moves, for example, that I wrote the music a long time ago when I was living in France, and then I was a little homesick, and I could see some of the Pyrenean mountains outside my studio window, and I thought of Norwegian mountains, and wrote this kind of melancholic piece, and that also comes to mind. I still remember very well that studio room, that emotion. It's a great way to write.
And I'm seeing many instruments behind you, and I think there's one more reason behind, because the fact that you're married to a musician, do you think it makes you evolve even more because of this daily connection?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we share a lot, Maria and I. She's also a guitarist. Well, you can't see all our guitars here. Here's just a few, but to have someone that understands that you can't have enough guitars, it's impossible to have enough. And to share music, and she even turned me on to some music that I thought that I would never like really get into. For example, best thing was with Keith Richards. A lot of people talked to me at Keith Richards over the years, but I was a little ignorant. There's so many guitar players to listen to, right? So I thought, well, Rolling Stones, Keith, everybody can be drunk, a little drunk, and play sloppy. Then it turns out when I meet Maria, this is her more or less her house god, her absolute favorite, and then she explains to me what she thinks is so great, and it's all about his timing, and how he almost falls apart, but he's still in there with a certain groove, and I have to admit when I was fascinated by what she said, and then I tried to play some key stuff like he does it. So difficult. I mean, he's got this impeccable way of rhythm. So there are things like this. We turn each other on different music, and of course we can listen to music together, go to concerts together. She's also a great reference when I write. She always has some great inputs and being very supportive. So I'm very lucky.
Lovely to hear that. And also, you're talking from Sweden, and you've been living in Sweden for a while now, which, despite being near to Norway, has its own culture and aspects. What have you learned from their culture that is now part of your way of seeing the world?
Being a little less brute and a little more gentleman. Waiting in queues, and it's maybe one of the biggest differences I see Norway and Sweden is that the Norwegians are a little bit more like going ahead and not thinking about the rest in the same manner. I think culturally we're very close. It was more of a culture crash when I lived in Germany or France or spent a lot of time in the United States. So I kind of expected that when I came here too, but I didn't really see it. But of course, I guess I've been in Sweden now for so many years. So I guess it's also like you learn a lot of stuff that also got to do with growing older and understanding more and being a little more, relaxed with everything. And exactly that, relaxed, laid back. That was what I found so great moving from Oslo to Stockholm, to the southern parts of Stockholm. That Stockholm was more like coming back to the countryside. Like Oslo was more like this harsh, fast-paced city. People here tend to, care more about their environments and who's around you at the moment. You don't need to know each other to have a good chat on the tube in Stockholm. That's something I found a little more difficult in Oslo.
In 2018, the return of Conception was announced, which started with you and Arv rehearsing and composing some songs. My Dark Symphony and State of Deception are heavier and more melancholic records than the rest of the discography. Even in these first rehearsals and ideas for songs, were you already aiming for something more dark with those two records?
Well, we never really aim to do something like we would never say, okay, now we're going to write such and such record. They always pan out the way that it just happens. We let the music stream. And that's why also it's really cool to listen back to all the albums because they're also like emotionally they're some kind of a document of where we were at the time. And of course, with My Dark Symphony, it's also not an easy album, so of the context of it, because we had all the four of us, we had some different kind of mental challenges over the years. And the whole theme for that EP is also going through and overcoming, and it's everything from anguish to death, to grief, but it's also hope in it. So it's the contrast was important for us, and again, we're just writing from the heart and letting the music stream through and our emotion be in control.
Another aspect that I really like in Conception is the complicity and connection between you and Roy writing together. What kind of musical evolution have you noticed in you and in Roy since the band's return?
Well, of course, we have both matured a lot. We have also experienced a lot, and of course, the whole journey we have developed together when we were writing in Conception, and then we've also been developing apart. When we have not been working so much, we actually did work also on some songwriting during all these years that we weren't in people's face. and I think Roy also. I think that really started on Flow and onwards, where he also like became much more of a overall. He could also participate more in the overall compositions. We have a great thing together now. We push each other until we're both satisfied. We're not doing anything unless we're both satisfied. And that has never been a problem. It's just been inspiration. So we have this good way of pushing each other to get better results, and it's also great now I usually come with a bunch of ideas that I pre-record, and then it's cool. Some of them Roy has taken totally apart and we rebuild them together. We take the good parts, write new parts. We have a very good chemistry in this way, and I think but we both have matured. Is also are we more settled songwriters? We know better what we're doing. It's easier, to get across, and especially for me with all the orchestrations, I have tools today that I didn't have back in the 90s. That also helps me a lot in that part of the songwriting.
I think the simple fact that you can take your phone to record something on the street, it's already something really amazing compared to what we didn't have in the 90s, 80s, for example.
Yeah, that and for me also, it's like I'm using a program called Pro Tools for recording. And so you see I have some keyboards behind me, and even the little travel one that I can always bring, but often I also sit and I just write the music in the program, and you can listen to your arrangements as you're writing it in, and that is also like it's a very fast way to do it, and you have something in your head and just get it down as soon as possible, especially if you're on a stream and the music keeps on flowing. You don't want to be stuck with some technical issues or not knowing exactly how to get it down. You just want to get it done as quickly as possible to follow the stream, and that's probably also been an inspiration. I mean, the possibility to do this, of course, is also a part of then the result of the songwriting.
Recording albums is always amazing, but traveling the world and getting live feedback is something unique. What has it been like to receive a worldwide affection that you didn't get to experience so intensely in the 90s, for example? Nowadays, many fans bring their kids to the shows, and as they both grew up listening to your music. How does it feel?
Feels great, and music is all about communication and connection, and of course, like you said, it's great to record, and that's like really rewarding in itself. The whole creation part of it, but when actually getting out there and be able to play with an audience, to experience that whole energy that occurs at live concerts. The mixed emotions of everyone, you could really feel it in the room, and also meet people that really appreciate what we do. That makes us very humble and very proud also what we do, and it's so rewarding, to do something that apparently means so much for so many people.
You also work helping artists with copyright and intellectual property. It is something that many artists are not aware of and often have trouble dealing with their own work. Until this year, the original Conception catalog wasn't available online. Was this work experience important to help the band on this comeback, and also a clear vision about your own career management?
Of course, everything I learned with all my work for artist rights and for artists helps a lot of understanding the industry better, and the mechanisms of the industry. And so that's clearly been a good advantage to do all this. And then it's also fascinating, but I don't think we're going to go so much into the details of all the legislations and lobby stuff that I do there, because I noticed that when I start to talk about music rights, people have been really excited about my music. They go like, they fall asleep. But in short, I'm involved in lobbying not only in Norway but internationally, also with the European directive now for the copyright. I've been very deeply involved with and trying to improve artists' rights in general.
And now about the remastered versions that will come out on vinyl. You've always been involved in the band's productions, especially since your comeback. How was this remastering process and choice of extra material that are part of these versions? Was it very nostalgic to re-listen to this material in this whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Because we have so much old material that's never been released. And then going through to pick out that was a real yeah, like we just talked about, also this thing about you remember certain things with the music, and some songs I totally forgot about. I didn't even know they existed, so I was like listening back to them again. It's like they're all brand new to me, even if I was part of writing them. Another brought back great memories, so it's cool, and then it's also cool that some of these songs now that we picked out, that they really also deserve to be released, even if it's old demo versions. So they didn't make it to the records that we did in the 90s, but I'm very, very happy that they made it now and finally, can see the light of day. Well, there's one instrumental, and it's on the Last Sunset issue. This instrumental was actually, I went 3 years to this kind of music college thing in Norway, and when you graduate, you might have an exam. So I spent these 3 years, I knew exactly what I wanted to play. That was not necessarily what my guitar teachers wanted me to play. They wanted to teach me like the real book jazz and, play after reading notes. And that was completely not my thing. So I was so into, Al Di Meola and Paco de Lucia and Randy Rhoads and Ron Liticro and God knows who, like hard rock guitar players. So then I decided, just in case I would have my exam, at least I'll write a tune that's based upon what I've been working on for these 3 years by myself. So then I wrote this track that was called "By Dawn's Early Light." So it's actually written for that purpose. Then I had Arven Ingard to play drum and bass on it, and for a while, we discussed whether we were going to put it on record. I think this was just after, around the Last Sunset. I don't think it was for the Last Sunset, but then for the Parallel Minds, we maybe should bring it on. But we had enough material. I'm glad that now it's here to share. So it's a very young, aspiring guitarist there. It was really fun.
During the pandemic, you guys started publishing a series of posts on social networks telling the band's story. Is there a plan to release a book with the full story or some kind of documentary, live gig?
We have this deluxe version of State of Deception that we release it digitally and also on CD so far. And then there's a box set with vinyls, and it's still due. It's going to be out this autumn, and that's also going to include the story of Conception in the 90s. So we have a nice woman in New York, Gwyneth, who's been like doing a lot of effort to put this together. She's been interviewing us, but she's also with the help of two Norwegian friends, Erna and Janne, they have gone through everything they could get their hands of clips, and wherever people write about us in Brazil or Japan during the 90s, they've been able to dig up a lot. So that's been a trip, a lot of new memories.
Ture, I hope you enjoyed this interview. It was incredible. If you want to know more about Conception, like the world tour and upcoming plans, look for Conception Music on all social networks. And this fall, the new versions of the first 4 albums will be available with remastered audio and extra material. Ture, did you like the conversation? Would you like to leave a final message?
It's been very nice to hang out with you here in the digital world today, John. Really nice pleasure. So,
My pleasure.
Final message would be, we have trouble sometimes around us, and many people are probably anxious about how everything is heading. Let music show us the way. Let's music unite us. Let's be tolerant and positive, and find a good way. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
Well said, sir. For the last video, I was like editing a virtual love story, and I was like, I had so good shots, but like, oh, dude is changing all the solos. Like, so it's always hard for me.
Yeah. I think lately I've been sticking more to the original. I'm not didn't do your job easy there.
Yeah, not at all, but it's fun.